I do the same usually.
Good to see you, though. I haven't seen you.
Yeah, good to see you. You're back from PJ, whatever?
Yeah.
Sorry.
First to activate a national park.
Excellent.
Yeah. It was fun. Not sure how I'll top it. Maybe some mountain.
Ah,
We had a great time.
very good.
I made 100 contacts total from the island, but I did 12 from the national park. We were baking out there on that piece of coral.
I bet.
But got my 10 and a couple extras just for.
Hello, you test 1, 2.
Hey, now I hear you, Mr. Twine. Well, I did hear you. I'll hear you now. I see Ed. It's like the romper room magic mirror, right? I see Ed. I see Mark.
Hating yourself there, Peter. Where's Miss Nancy? Wherever you were.
I think ours was Miss Susan.
Ours changed once a year. They wore them out.
Yeah. Mark Klein, if you can hear me, we're still not hearing crowd noises. Oh, he's going to do hand signals. Look at that. Both of them.
Yeah, Peter, the next island over has 2 national parks that have never been activated.
Oh.
Think about running over there and do 2 in a day. Get
There
a
you
2.
go.
Everybody go ahead and try to find your seat. We're going to start here in just a minute.
Good audio. Bye-bye. Okay, he said they just didn't have the mic on. That explains it all.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the South Canadian Amateur Radio Club's August meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started here. And I'd like to first ask if there's any visitors with us this morning. Anybody visit? Please give us your name and your call. Welcome to the group. Glad to have you here. Anybody else? Give us your name, and if you're a ham, give us a call. Jonathan, what's your last name? Jonathan Burkett. Welcome to the club this morning. Glad to have you. We need to make him a ham. Anybody else? Okay, I'm going to start over here with Mr. Klein and have him give his call this morning as we start off. Lee, Whiskey 5 Hotel Lima Golf. Larry, W5 Lima Hotel. Not to be confused. Bill, A5F. Again, J8WGE. Fred, KC5M. Dang, November India 5 Golf. Well, I'm 85 than you. What? Okay. Galen?
Galen, WX5MOR. Here, maybe 42. And N5 KK. They had 85 DB.
And we've got Sam online this morning. We've got Peter. We've got Ken, HFE. We've got Al. We got KG5 LXV. I'm gonna go ahead and do the calls. AE5LAL. Al.
Morning, everybody.
And Larry's already given his. He's on there because of what he's got set up over here. Anybody else that we missed? Okay. I want to go ahead and start with the program this morning. He's getting himself set. Okay. This month, we're going to talk about an interesting program that I think a lot of hams that are setting up their new antennas would like to know. How are they getting out? Who's hearing them? So with this introduction, I'm going to go ahead and just introduce Mark Klein, our Oklahoma section manager, who's going to do this morning's program on Whisper.
Get logged in here. Yeah, we're gonna do it on Whisper. Anybody know Whisper? Oh, Chris. Ooh, Dwayne. Anybody using Whisper? Chris. Okay, I gotta watch what I say so somebody knows what they're doing. So dadgummit, that's no good. Oh, okay. So if you didn't know what you're doing, I can make stuff up as we go along. That's really good. That's really good to say. Has anybody heard about Whisper? Okay, so you're familiar, but you don't know what's going on. Good, that makes it easy. We can work with that really good. As Mark said, I am Mark Klein, the section manager for Oklahoma, and 40-some year member of this club, which is kind of cool. We're going to talk. Yay! Oh, geez. Yeah. Showing up. Yeah, since I was Jeff gets bonus prizes. I have been here since I was a teenager. Yet no, I wasn't. 85. I found my first license or my second license the other day, digging through stuff. So since 85 sometime. Today we're going to talk about weak signal propagation reporter, or something called Whisper is how it's pronounced. It is a digital mode, and it's not a communications mode. The goal is not to trade information with a QSO and say, my gallbladder scar is this big and it goes from here to here. We don't do that in Whisper. It's a beacon mode when we're trying to send out radio signals to the world and see what we can hear from the world. It was invented by Professor Joe Taylor, K1JT. That's why everything says JT in it, because he's vain and he wants his call sign or his initials in everything, which is cool. He's a Nobel Prize winning physicist, so I guess he's allowed that difference. So, you know, if I'm a physicist, it'll be MK. But the big thing here is it's really, really good at transmitting signals with low noise. You'll see here that it goes down to minus 27 decibels below the noise floor. So where you hear that noise floor, the signal can still get through 27 decibels below it. They now have stuff that they're looking at that will go 32 decibels below that noise floor. Yeah, oh, Jesus, right. It's amazing what can happen. I think Mark made a test FT8 conference, or a check QSO the other day, get the right word. An FT8 QSO the other day was minus what, 20? Minus 23, he was hearing a guy that came in and actually made a connection on FT8. So this digital stuff is really, really good at weak signals, getting stuff everywhere and making it happen. Transmission and reception modes on this this platform are mostly automatic. It is truly the thing that you can set it and forget it. If you've all watched the infomercial, I have remote systems that are powered by, I think I had one in the pocket, a little tiny battery that you can just plug the battery into the device and it'll run for 2 or 3 days and you don't touch the thing. So transmission is you set it and forget it, and the reception is set it and forget it. So if you're receiving signals, you can leave that running 24 hours a day and it pops up, as it shows there, pops up the real-time answers on the internet. So weak signals, transmissions, you really typically set up as a transmitter or a receiver. You typically don't do both. It's not like I send a transmission to Bing and Bing responds to me. If I send a transmission, Bing will receive it and his system will upload it to the internet so we can both look at it later. There's no confirmation. For all of you introverts, this is the perfect thing. All you have to do is turn it on and let somebody else listen to you, and you can go away and don't have to talk anymore, which is really good for those guys. What's it good for? Big thing is HF propagation. If you're learning how HF propagates, I've done this 40 years, as we talked about earlier. HF signals act really weird. They sometimes come through loud and clear. Sometimes some bands do better than others. You really got to know what you're doing when you're looking at it. If you sit and watch these transmissions go back and forth, you'll learn what the HF, the ionosphere, is doing today, and you'll get a good idea to see what happens going forward. For instance, if you are trying to work something on HF and you can't hear any signals, it's a good idea to flip over to the Whisper folks, go to the Whisper website, and you'll see, oops, nobody else is getting through either. So it's not just my equipment, it's the ionosphere that's out there. The big thing that I use it for is you can see how far your antenna can reach. You build a new radio, you got a new radio, you put a new antenna up, and you want to see how efficient that radio is. A lot of us have antenna analyzers, and we have vector network analyzers that let you test that antenna and see how electrically good that is. That's fine. That's how you set up a radio. I'm not bad-mouthing that setup. You then have to learn how efficient that radio is. Ed Hatch is fond of saying SWR is not the only thing. His dummy load tests at 1-to-1 SWR, but it never leaves the house. So it's not very efficient transmitter. So if you've got an antenna that tests okay on one of those devices, it may or may not put signal out in the air. So this, you actually hook up a signal and it will go out to the world and make it all happen. Testing antennas. Anybody build antennas here in the group? Good. That's a good idea. If you put up an antenna, you have no idea where it's going to go, how efficient it is. You can do those kind of things. Typically, you can, once you sit and look at these long enough, you go, oh, I get it. You know, it's not working. Or it works out really well, depending on what you've seen. You can also compare your antenna versus somebody else's that's up and running live on the system on the same day if you want to. And Peter Core's not here yet, is he? Good. I've got one that shows my antenna is better than Peter Core's, so I want to make sure I rub that in later. But largely automatic, so you can run Whisper while you're at the shack. I typically will put it on an antenna, go to work, come back 2 days later, watch it from the internet, and you can see what's happening and see how many signals are getting out. So it allows, for those of us that are not retired and those of us that have a life, you can do something while you're doing those other things, which is kind of fun. There are people that have a life, Jeff. Sorry, I thought you were one of them. You were living the dream. Not you, Jeff. Okay. And the big thing is it's lots of fun. You can put a signal on the air and you can see what happens and brag to your friends and neighbors about it. These slides will be on the video. That's the link will be there when the video comes out, so you don't have to take notes. You don't have to remember all these frequencies. The computers and all the hardware stuff tend to fill in the frequencies. However, if you're dialing around on your radio, let's say that you've got John's 520 back there that's turned on, and you come upon one of these frequencies, you will hear some of the tones that are whisper, and you may not understand what they're doing, but that's what they are. So those are the dial frequencies that you'll listen to hear those. Digital modes are always upper sideband, no matter what band we're on. So remember that. I'm not going to say that I had a lot of problems early on remembering that, but it works a lot better if you use upper sideband on everything. The clever thing here is each user selects their own offset frequency. So we have a whole 3 kilohertz bandwidth assigned to us at these frequencies. If I'm running, I can pick my frequency range in that whole list so that I don't step on somebody else. So if I'm at 1200 hertz and Chris is at 1250 and Bill's at 1285, we can all exist in that same piece. If you happen to see that somebody else is transmitting on the same frequency you are, you can move your frequency to make that happen. Questions cost money.
There you got on the left side, very bottom.
Yep.
10-meter band there.
Yep.
That's below 10 mil.
It could be that could be. It's going to be in the Morse code section of the band. So it may be it will be in the technician part of the, or the QRP CW. The question is 10 meters listed. It shows in below the technician part of the band, and yes, it will be. Yes.
That's not.
Yes, it will
It's
be.
in the digital part.
Whisper protocols. This one is the eye chart piece, and I put it in here just as one little tiny piece to tell you what Joe is actually doing. Whisper generates and receives signals using structured messages, strong forward error correction, and narrow band FS keying modulation, which it does. It does all that stuff. Let me tell you what the words mean. The structured message means when they send out a message, they structure it so that at 2 seconds past an even minute, it starts transmitting. So if you sit there and you don't hear anything, your transmitter will wait, or your software will wait until the right time to start that. So it's structured because it starts at 2 seconds past that time frame. It knows that at 2 seconds past that time frame, it will start 162 different pulses, and it uses the timing based on that to get the timing correct out of that system. So that's what structured messages mean. Strong forward error correction means that it sends 162 bits of data, and it only needs 50 of those. The 50 bits are what they transmit back and forth: your call sign, your location, and your power level. So the other 162 bits are extras, so that if a packet or if a bit doesn't come through, it's repeated and error corrected as it goes on. So that's how they could get that really low stuff. So let's think that a power pulse hits something and your radio goes and it missed a couple bits. It will pick those up later in that piece. That's the forward error correction. The third part of that is narrow frequency shift keying, FSK. It has 4 different audio tones. The bass tone is at 0. And then the second tone is 1.46 something hertz above it. The next one is 2.52 above, or 2.92 hertz above it. So about 1.5 hertz apart. So the 0 tone, 1.5 hertz above, 3 hertz above, and 4.5 hertz above. So it takes about 6 hertz, 6 tiny little hertz to make this signal go through the air. So that's how we can have hundreds of these happening in a 3 kilohertz bandpass. So that's all the magic that happens on the electrical side. The principal goal is low signal levels. That's what we all are loving with our FT8s and our digital modes that we're doing now. This is the base of what they were all built on. And again, goes down to about 27 dB below the signal. Whoop. Oh, okay. We'll grab that at the end. Thanks. Okay. Proto technicians have CW data from 29 to 28.3. 28 to 28.3. Oh, he says he's got it. And that's what this would be, 20 in that technician range.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks. So you can do it. Yes, technicians can do it. Transmitted call sign. What's actually sent? What's actually sent is a call sign, your locator, and your power level. So in this case, K1JT is the call sign. FN20 is his grid square, Maidenhead grid square, which in our case is probably Echo Mike 15. I don't know, anybody here outside Echo Mike 15? Probably not. And then the 30 means the power level. So that's the power level that he's using. You need that power level so you can compare these signals later on. So if Levon's sending it at power level 30 and I'm sending it at power level 5, they do a comparison to say, okay, here's what I'm receiving. That equals out the piece. 3 different options, 3 different things that are sent. 15 bits, if you're into bits, 15 bits for the locator. That's the FN20 in that case, or Echo Mike 15 for our case. 28 bits are assigned for the call sign, and then 7 bits for the power level. So if you're a programmer, you know 2 to the 7th means X number of options that are there. So 50 data bits that are sent. The rest of this stuff is kind of silly. The occupied bandwidth, I said earlier, is 6 hertz. I mean, that's this wide. Our voice takes up 3,000. Morse code takes up technically 1. And this takes up 6 hertz wide. The cute thing out of this is the transmission is 110.6 seconds long. Remember, it said it started at 2 seconds after the even minute. 110 seconds, if you do the math, is really close to 2 minutes. So 2 seconds it starts, 110.6 as it transmits. That gives you 112.6. And then there's a little bit at the end where they kind of process the data. So it gives you about 9.4 seconds to process the data and do the upload. So that continues 24 hours a day. That loop happens. I talked earlier about a 4 hertz. This is a whisper chart, and the big bold one in a little left of center shows you the 4 steps. You see a little stair step in there. There's 4 different pieces. Those are the 4 different tones that are used by whisper. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different showing paths are 5 different whisper transmissions happening at the same time. So that width, that bandwidth is just really tiny, 6 hertz on each one of those paths is all that's there. So that's how this thing can go below the noise. It knows when it starts and it knows a fixed number of frequencies. There's my story, starts at 2 seconds past the minute. Each transmission takes 110.6. If you're doing whisper, you typically see the software at about 113 seconds show on the display decoding and uploading. So you watch it, you can see the decoding and uploading. If you jump in the middle of this transmission, you don't get it. You've got to wait and do an entire transmission cycle from start to finish. Let me pull up, see where we're at on the minutes side. I have a transmitter app on my phone where we say start. So there was 2 seconds past the even minute, and it will now go for 120. It will now go for another 110 seconds, and that's the audio that's actually transmitted out of your repeater, your radio at that point. If I hit start now, it does nothing. It says transmit will begin in 99 seconds. So it will sit and wait to start. So jumping in the middle doesn't do any good because we got to know where we're at from the start of this transmission. So 120 seconds is your cycle. If you change bands, you either do it in those 9 seconds between those two, or you lose a cycle and you just say, yeah, whatever. Take up, do your thing. Not a big deal. These are the charts that depends on the software and the hardware that you're using. These are typically the charts that you will see. This is a whisper test that we did at the Red Cross using W6KPR's end-fed half-wave antenna that he had up for field day. And we ran a couple of cycles just to test that piece out. This in the center, the big black dot in the center is where we were. That's where the transmitter was. And the different dots around the world are the ones that heard that antenna going plus or minus, probably plus 6 dB down to minus 27 dB in signal. Dwayne's got a end-fed antenna that he's put together. We'll talk about later. 49-to-1 Ballon that's in there that he's printing and producing and selling. Sold a bunch of them at Ham Holiday. But that little antenna is the same as this one that's there. We went from Alaska, just south of where Phil was last week, to Anchorage area, to Hawaii, to somewhere off here in the Asian Pacific, or down to New Zealand, and all the way up to Europe on that one set of transactions. That was set for 200 milliwatts, 0.2 watts. Levon. Yeah, they're seeing the same thing. Yep, they're seeing the same thing we are. That's a different output. So it was a test of that antenna. We had it up and running. We did a test. Now we know we're in good shape. Life's going. You can see from that, it was probably a pretty high antenna. That one was actually run off of the top of Galen's 50-foot, 46-foot, whatever that mast is, his little push-up mast, and off to the east on some fiberglass poles. So we got some really good coverage out of the thing. If you look at the colors of the dots, they mean something. The green is the highest signal level. The dark brown is the lowest signal level. So you can see the stuff in the continental United States is a lot of green. And you can see the stuff in Europe and Pacific is all brown. And that's probably minus 27 to minus 24 dB that they're receiving at. So you can kind of tell signal strength as these go on. A lot of different charts are available, a lot of different pieces out of the deal. For fun, during the same field day, we ran the 80-40-20 fan dipole. It was on the Red Cross. It was up a little bit higher. Cut 420. It was a dipole. It was cut 420 megahertz. So it was tuned. And you can see this pattern is significantly larger. There's the end-fed. There's the dipole. This pattern is significantly larger. It was getting out, doing a lot better transmissions to the coast of Africa on the right-hand side, South America, Australia and New Zealand, and even way up top to Europe was handling Europe pretty well. Again, look at the colors. Green means higher signal. Dark brown is lower signals. You can compare this over time to see how your radio is doing. If you get a new antenna, you can check the propagation and make that happen. This one is a 20-meter tuned dipole, 7 foot off the ground. I didn't want to get on a ladder, and I didn't want to really raise my hands too high. So that's where this dipole was set. And I put it between 2 trees when I got this unit to start with. This one shows, this is continental United States, and you can see the farthest east it went is Newfoundland. The farthest west it went was the West Coast. Farthest south is, looks like Gary Skaggs' house down there in South Texas, or probably Dave Woolweaver's is the right answer. But this one is really at a 7 foot level. That's going to be an NVIS. It's going to be near vertical incident antenna. So most of that energy from mine was going up and coming right back in the United States. So this antenna at 7 feet and this antenna at 50 feet were both the same dipole, but you can see the different path because one of them was at 50 feet and one of them was at 7 feet. Same low power, 200 milliwatts on both of them. Yes, good question. Same low power. They, and I think I'll see it later, but the 200 milliwatts was probably used because there was an RF transistor that put out 200 milliwatts that was cheap, is my guess why they hit 200 milliwatts. They have mathematically computed that a 200 milliwatt whisper signal will probably be the same as a 30 watt CW signal, which will probably be the same as a 100 watt sideband signal. So what you see at 200 milliwatts, you would expect to work somebody at CW at 30 watts or 100 watts on sideband. So if you're trying to equate this to something, if I have a 100 watt 745 radio sitting on my bench, that's the signal I should have gotten out of that 7 foot dipole sitting on the ground. So if you're talking about height matters, there's the pattern that you get from 7 foot, and there's the pattern that you get from 45, 50 foot, whatever that was. So that's how you can compare antennas empirically and say, oh, I see now how one of them gets a lot more. There were no other, this is all of the spots I got. I got nothing in Europe and I got nothing out west on this one. I was trying to mess with, this dipole is actually going east and west. And I was trying to mess with that dipole and I turned it like 10 different positions, clock positions around the dial, and I moved it. Oh, there's Peter. Shoot, I'm in trouble now. There's 10 different clock positions, and I was moving it to see if I could get directionality out of a dipole, and I got nothing. What I learned was there aren't very many people in North and South Dakota, because North and South Dakota were empty, no matter where you aimed that thing. I kind of got a little bit of peak when I aimed it broadside. I aimed it down to Atlanta. I got a little bit more down in the South Florida range, but not much. So if everybody's talking about how directional a dipole is, not much. You can maybe, it probably had more to do with a tree that was next to my environment or something of that nature, but it really didn't give me any changes in all those looks. But the good thing is you got a lot of greens here in this continental United States, so that NVIS antenna shows up a good thing. Dean, sir. This is all 20 meters. This is all 20 meters. This is all, the device I was using is a 20-meter device, so that's why I was doing that. You can do other frequencies. We'll talk about that in a bit, but this was all 20 meters. So you can make those comparisons and you can put up as a baseline. Now, propagation gets great. All of a sudden the whole chart is full. Yes, sir. Okay, he has 2 end feds 40 degrees apart. He said he's got 2 different antennas 40 degrees apart on end feds, and if he flips back and forth between them, he can see a difference in them. And I'm going to say, right answer, wrong question. You're talking about an end fed antenna, and those are directional, and I'm talking about the dipole, which is Yeah, he said he's had the same thing with some dipoles. Local conditions always vary. That's why you need whisper, so you can prove that yours. No. That's why you can prove what your situation comes up with. The ground is different. You know, a grounding level, what works at my house at 7 feet, it's not going to work at somebody else's at 20 feet. Yeah, that's he's talking about a signal strength meter at 30, 40 feet. That's a good near field representation. The far field is what we're looking at. It's the stuff that actually goes out and gets used. So yeah, local conditions, and those are really good discussions on why you should do whisper at your own location. Because what I find what works for me doesn't work for Lee, doesn't work for Bill. It will vary depending on location. You take that same antenna and you go to somebody else's house, it may operate differently. That's local. A Smith chart on a VNA shows you the impedance of that antenna. It does not show you the efficiency of that antenna. So two different things. So yeah, that's why you got to have both of them. That's what you're chasing. This was 20%. So I operated, we'll talk about it in a bit, but 20% operation for a day, 24 hours. So these were 24 hours. Now this is a long time ago when whisper wasn't as popular. So now it's way huge. You get a lot more stuff in just a few minutes.
And your answer is somewhat dependent upon propagation time.
It will definitely become variable on propagation at the time. So if your mileage may vary. So if we're having a good propagation day, this situation may hit Europe just wonderfully. That's why you need a baseline. That's why you do these kind of things, is to go, oh, I see what's happening. You know, here's the propagation. I'll show you the WhisperNet screen in a bit. Because the world is using these things, you can use somebody else's system to learn all of this. But if you want your antenna modeled, you do your antenna on this every day or every time you want to learn something different. And does everybody agree that propagation changes about every 20 minutes or 20 seconds? Yeah. I mean, yes, propagation varies big time. So you got to know where you're at. Yes.
How quick do you receive this data?
How quick? Good question. How quick do you receive the data? We talked about earlier, the 120 seconds. Between second 113 and a second 120, it is uploaded to WhisperNet, and you will see that spot show up literally at that second.
So if you're at your radio and you look at this data, it's current enough that you can turn your radio on and
Yep.
expect to work certain areas.
Yep, the propagation stuff is all up to date, current. And you can go back in time and look different things, but yes, you can use it for propagation.
I've always wondered, how do I know
Good question.
where I'm going?
Good question. If you use this rig, you can see where you're going. If you use the WhisperNet site, you will see where other people are going. And I'll show that here in a second. So good questions. Good questions. Good questions. We said this before. Whisper's receive system uploads to whispernet.org, and I just said that happens instantly. I mean, literally, you can watch the dots show up before the next cycle starts. Whisper is what's called a weak signal. We don't want to really use more than 5 watts to do this. So Harold's not here, is he? No. Turn off the amplifier. There's no wagering. This is not a contest. It's 5 watts or below is where you're supposed to. Can you run it on 100? Yes, I've run it on 100 because I messed up and didn't hit the right buttons. It does affect your results, but yeah, you want to run 5 watts or less is what they're wanting to do. Oh, Ed did a WinLink piece from here to South Texas. What, half watt? What you ended up with? Half a watt on 20 meters from here to South Texas on WinLink. So propagation's there, you can do it, and it works out really well. So 5 watts or less is what you want to run on this thing. Typically, people run 200 milliwatts because that's what the early devices were, and it's a good common denominator on that. And it runs, I mean, it literally run this is the battery that I use to run all of this stuff off of. It's just a cheapy battery that I got from General Motors fleet at a conference a couple years ago, and it powered the thing, and it shuts off after a day, and life is good. Typically, as far as etiquette goes, you want to transmit 20% of the time. Peter Core turns his up to 100. Where are you at, Peter? Okay. He turns it up to 110%, so it's always transmitting. No, he didn't. 20% is what you want to do so that you're not blasting out there the whole time. When you're actually testing an antenna, I will turn mine to 100% because I want to see everything that's happening right now. I want to see every 2-minute cycle. I want to see something. So 2-minute time slices, that gives us 30 of them in each minute. So that means you're transmitting 6 times a minute, or 6 times an hour. Sorry, 6 times an hour. You can select your own offset frequency. I've talked before. You just want to stay away from the other people. A lot of people default to 1500, which is right in the middle of the 3000, 3 kilohertz band. You're all stepping on each other. Just move yours to 1272 or 1280 or 1500 or 1580. Move yours somewhere out of the range of somebody else. The little cheapy units that I've got automatic, they randomly pick a frequency. So they just pick one and off you go.
Well, if you have a receiver, where do you put it?
Yeah, where's a dollar bill? Send that man a dollar bill. This is a waterfall display of Whisper, the Whisper area, and it's 14. This was actually 14095.6 hertz. I was on a 20-meter band, and I will say it. Let's see. I'll say it the proper way. I was too lazy to get up to turn on my radio, so I remote desktoped into the machine that was across the room, and I connected to a web SDR receiver that was in California. And I used that receiver to create this waterfall. So a guy in California has a system up on the web. It sends the audio to me, and this is what I was receiving because I was too lazy to turn my radio on. Now, remember, lazy and efficient are very equal, so don't judge me. Don't judge me. This is the waterfall. You will see these, it looks like cat's paws coming down. There's the lines coming down. Those are the Whisper signals from each one of the stations that we're transmitting at that time. So this was last night sometime when I put this put up there. You can see at the very bottom, there are some little blips, and each little blip is a signal that they are hearing at that receiver site. So we listen at 14095.6. This is what you see on the waterfall display, and you will see these frequency blips. There are others, I'm sure, that are out there that are below the noise floor that you're not seeing. You're not hearing them all. So you don't have to see them to make them happen. They don't have to be red. You don't have to have your amplifier on. You can pick this up below 20 beat below. For a time reference, on this green line in the middle, you will see that it says 20 meters. So it says I was at 20 meters. And you can also see that it was at 428 UTC. So if you want to back that up, that's probably 11 o'clock last night when I did this piece. So that's the waterfall you see. You see a little bit of darker red down here in this. Looks like that guy had a little bit better signal than all of the rest. You'll see some blips on the far left, and the blips on the far left are usually Morse code. Those are the QRP Morse code guys that get in there. And you can typically, you can see them on the very top left, you can see little blips, and you can actually decode the Morse code on that. You'll see a dit and a da dit, and you can actually figure out what the guy's sending if you're that bored to go through those things. So that's the signal you'll see. There's a lot of noise on this one. Again, it was from some guy in California. I don't have a clue what it was, but used his receiver last night. I showed you my cell phone. I use something for those of you that have a real phone, an Android phone. You can get at least 2 different options. You have a Whisper TX option, and you have a Whisper Beacon option. For those of us hams, you go with the Whisper TX option because it has the best feature ever. It's free. That's right. It has less features. It has less UI, but it does the piece. That's actually the device that I hit the send button on earlier. Now, Thomas Hayes, everybody remember Thomas Hayes? Thomas brought an antenna out. He said, I want to test it out. Peter says, let's put it on Whisper. And I thought, nobody has an encoder. Nobody has a thing to connect it. Who's got the right cables? You guys are crazy. 5 minutes later, Peter whips out his phone, and he took his phone and he put it up against the microphone of Thomas's radio, keyed the microphone, and just held still for 2 minutes. That was the hardest part for Peter, I think, right, Peter? Holding still? Yeah. So he's held still, transmitted the thing, unkeyed, and we got a gorgeous map of that antenna literally in seconds with no hardware. I didn't think it'd work. It works well. So take your radio, you can put this onto your microphone, and if you have an Android app, you can do it for free and hit the button. It will do everything for you. Life is good. It will tell you if you put the frequency in there. It'll actually display the frequency on the piece. You have to select the power level. Remember the things we send: call sign, location, and power level. So you do all that, life is good. The free one's got, or the one you spend more money for has got more options, and it lets you do once or twice or 20% and all that kind of stuff. Good option, good thing if you got it going. Not going to cheat the man out of $200.40, but it's well worth the $2.49 if you have one. If you've got one of those other phones that, the 10% of the people have or whatever it is, you get to pay $4 for a device called Whisper TX, and it does the same thing. It will transmit and it will receive. So you can do that like Peter showed us. Just put the microphone up against the thing and it will transmit out and make it happen. Nothing fancy. Here's the whispernet.org site. Talked about earlier that this is the thing that we look at. If you're looking for real propagation, you can see these paths. These are actual real-time recent transmissions that are happening. At the bottom of this, if you scroll down, it will let you pick the band that you want to do, the time that you want to do, all kinds of things, and it will make you a map of the propagation as it happens in real time. So that's whispernet.org is where you need to go for that. And they used to have it pop up on the main screen, but it says here for development purposes. They're not paying Google for this, so Google stamps it with for development purpose. You have to click on the little button on the top that says map to make this happen. What else can you do with it? We last year did a class with OU's aerospace folks. You can do a balloon. I'll pass this around. This is the same transmitter that was actually in the balloon. Actually, it's not the same one. It's a similar one. The same one is in a field somewhere. But this is the actual transmitter. This one will actually do 20 meters and it will do 2 meters APRS. And it's 9 grams and it'll go in a balloon and run around. I've got a 2 meter antenna tacked onto the thing, but it'll also have a 20 meter option that will poop out of it. That does 20 meters. You can see on the left, they're filling the balloon. This is a Mylar party balloon. This is no, this is the high dollar. This is the $120 big specially built balloon that we found. The $4 party balloons do a lot better than the $120 balloons do. Down at the bottom, you'll see a helium connector that they're putting it up. These are the Whisper transmissions. It left Norman at the top of the screen and it came down here on the first day, and you'll see it transmitted. It transmitted the speed, the altitude, 36,743 feet was where that balloon was at. And all this information came through. Somebody who's paying attention says, wait, we don't transmit altitude and speed. Speed, it figures based on the previous spot. So it just does a math and says, okay, previous spot was here. The altitude, they encode as a second, they do a second packet. So at 0 minutes they send the normal packet, and at the one following it, they send a second packet that uses the call sign area as altitude. So the call sign is garbage. It's usually a W7 or a what is it, Yankee 7 something. It's a call sign sequence that's not legal, but it passes the altitude back to us. So that's how we got the altitude coming back from this thing. This one went, I think, to Nova Scotia, and it got into a storm up there and blew up, disappeared. Never heard from it again. So those balloons work out well. That little transmitter that's going around the room was here in a field on the east side of town, and that's the ground spot. So we did a test from the ground. That's what we heard. Who heard it? So you see somebody out in Hawaii's got a whole bunch of stuff sitting there. Good sequence. If you see the same pattern, nobody's in the Dakotas, nobody's in North Dakota, nobody's in South Dakota. We need to get our friends up there. I think there's 3. Yeah, I think there's 3. 3 hammer operators, and 2 of them are Buffalo. So yeah, that's it.
So device available on the web or what?
It is. I'll show it here. Yep, that little device is available on the web. Whisper, you can do it a bunch of ways. One is you can use your existing radio. How many have a FT8 set up or a JT or a PSK and all that kind of stuff? Yeah. Use your existing radio, use your existing WSJT software. You got to use your accurate clock. If you're a digital guy, you already know that clock accuracy helps. If you need help setting all this up, we do our Elmer nights Tuesday night. Come and see us. Go ahead. Can I stop you?
One thing on the clock that he just brought up needs to be accurate when you're doing this. If you get one of those programs, which he'll tell you, or we can tell you on Elmer Night on the clocks, the program to set it up, you want to make sure you turn the clock off in the computer, because those two will fight each other and it won't stay accurate. So that's just a tidbit you might want to know when you get one of those programs to do that.
First thing you got to do is set your call sign, grid square, and power level. We talked about that over and over and over. WSJTX in their settings piece, you probably have already put your call sign in. Mine's there up in the top left, N5HZR. My grid is Echo Mike 15IE. It will only transmit the 4-letter piece of it. Yes, sir. Phil.
Notice the power level is in DBM.
Yes.
So 1 watt is 30, 10 watt 240, 100 watt 250.
Yes, I got $1 for you because we got a chart coming up. Yes. Power level is in dBm, but the grid square is Echo Mike 13, Echo Mike 15IE for me. And then here I set mine up for the audio to get the signal from the radio. Mine goes through something called a virtual audio cable. So that's where I took the web SDR and I fed it back into the WSJT. So that's how I got the signal into my system. So you set those 2 things up and that should be there. If you're already doing Whisper, you're already set up. You got everything ready, good to go. But those are the only 2 things you really need. The WSJTX screen. This is what happens when you bring up that software on your computer. It looks scary, but it's pretty easy. Across the top, you have UTC, which is obviously the time. In this case, it was 04:52 last night. DB is this transmission from N8 Oscar Whiskey Yankee. Came in to me at a -11 dB. So I was hearing it 2 S units below the noise level. DT is delta time, and that tells you if your time clock is accurate, whether you're on time. So in this case, you can see that our clocks were 1 second apart on the 2, which is good. You're okay at a second or 2, you're just fine. Frequency, that's the actual frequency that it was picked up at, 14.095056. So that's 14.0956 plus a little bit. So that's where he lived at. Drift is the measure of how much did that signal drift. So the zeros mean they're probably a really good solid state radio. The ones that have big drift, I'm not looking at you, John. Big drift radios. if your radio drifts, you'll see a big number here. So that -2 there is probably, that guy's got a little bit of wiggle going on. If you see a lot of drift in all of these, that means you're the person drifting. So if they're all drifting, you're the guy. Yes, sir? Oh, yeah. But if you're, and on both of those, like if you see the time and you see the drift that are off, like the time in my case, probably is my system that's off because everybody is off a little bit from me. So I'm going to say I'm the guilty guy there. On the drift, looks like we're nailed. It's not my receiver. It's the guy in California's receiver. So that's his good receiver, not mine. Call sign. These are the call signs that came in and the grids that populated, and then DBM, and that's the power level. And that's where Phil gave us the jump off, which is kind of cool. The software gives you a lookup. It does the math for you and says the top one was 1,143 kilometers away. You can see in the middle, I have a ZL1 SK or SX that shows to be 12,042 kilometers away. And I'm going to have to, yeah, well, no, I'm going to have to admit that, remember I showed you back here, my grid square? My grid square shows Oklahoma. I was listening out of a guy in California. I should have changed my grid square to his grid square because all of those are based on Oklahoma. My receiver was in California. So if you do web SDR hopping, which I do a lot when I'm chasing balloons around the world, make sure you update your location, because I got some really nasty emails from Eastern Russia where I was showing them at a +4 signal in Oklahoma, and they wondered how I got their signal at +4 in Oklahoma when I was using a receiver in Munich. But it's like, oh, these people are watching their stuff, man. This is cool. So yeah, I got some nicely worded, but obviously fix your stuff, man, kind of emails. So pay attention when you're doing that if you're hopping around. And I forgot, just remembered that now. I forgot to do that. Well, it could be NSA. Yeah, it could be. Obviously, the buttons in the middle of the connection button. Stop means stop if you're transmitting. Monitors, what I was doing, I was just listening because I don't have a transmitter. I was on the guy in California's. Erase means you swipe out the list. Decode pops up in that 113 second point. So when 113 seconds comes up, you'll see that decode light come on, and it's decoding the math, doing it all its time. If I had turned on the transmitter, the enable TX button would be lit up red. And then the tune button is just, you can hit the button and it'll fire up the transmitter and test your push to talk and all that kind of stuff. So that's all those things do. Bottom left, you'll see it. Whoop, wrong deal. Bottom left, you'll see a 30 dB over on the left-hand side. That is your audio coming in. You want that to be somewhere between 30 and 60. I have a better luck at about 30 to 40. The book says 30 to 60. 30 to 40 seems to be a good number. So if you overdrive the audio coming into it, it will go red and look nasty and you won't hear anything. So 30 or so is a good number for me. Obviously UTC on the bottom is the time when this was done. Transmit, I told you can pick your own transmitter. This one's set at 1400 Hertz. That's where you would adjust that frequency to move around in that band piece. And then the transmitter percentage. So if you want to be the pig, you can do it to 100%. The nifty thing with this software, if you have your radio set up correctly, is it will let you do band hopping. So you can send 2 times on 80 meters, then go to 40 meters, then go to 20 meters, and you can automate that whole thing. And it's really, really neat to do that. The blue blot that says upload spots means if I hear something, it's going to upload these to whispernet.org. Bottom right is our friend Phil with his 30 dBm 1 watt. And that's where you select your power ratings. You say, this is how much power my radio is using. You tell it that. Some radios, you can do it can calculate that power for you. Mine, you just click the right power level that you're using. On the right-hand side is a relative power. So if you just want to run a whole cycle and not send any signal out, you can grab that little slider, bring it down, and it will not send any audio out. That's pretty much it for the whisper part. Here is Phil's eye chart. This is the power level. You can see that 23 dBm is 200 milliwatts, and that's typically what I use on the equipment that I use. But you can go from 5 watts down to 5 milliwatts as a test. And don't turn the amplifier on. No, you don't need to do that. Anybody do grid tracker? Grid tracker will take the output from your WSJT software and it will light up the different spots that you hear. So each one of those little push pins is somebody that I was listening to last night that it populated their stuff in that same place. On the screen, you can see I was doing 20-meter whisper and comes through from all of the stuff. Sam's got a question. Sam's got a question. What's the question? So I have to set the actual power level of my radio, not through WSJT. You have to set it, you have to set to make sure that it's correct on the screen, this screen here. You have to make sure it's set correctly as it goes out, because this is what's encoded as it goes out. Now, your radio may communicate that back and forth depending on what radio you're using. So if your radio power level comes back automatically, you wouldn't have to adjust this, but always a good idea to keep your mind on that. Thank you. Good choice, Sam. Good question. Okay, here's some other stuff. This is the device that went around the room. QRP Labs, solar powered. They put 2 little solar panels on that, goes up in the balloons, and we've had some of them that stayed up for 8-10 months. We got one of them up at 50,000 feet now that's going up past the jet stream, so it's just loafing at 4 or 5 miles an hour. It's just not doing anything. It's above the storm, so it's staying well. It's a device called the Light APRS-W. The -W is whisper. 10 milliwatt output on this device, which when you have a 50,000 foot antenna, it works out pretty nice. This one runs on 20 meters, APRS on 2 meters, 9 grams, and it's about $130, somewhere in that range. This is the little device that I wanted to bring. I couldn't find the dumb thing last night, but this is my little whisper box. It's about 2-inch square. It runs off the little battery. The cute thing here is it has no idea of time. So there's a button, there's a big black button on the top right. You have to hold your finger on that button. And when you let go, it syncs and says, okay, that's 2 seconds past an even minute. So you have to watch your phone and watch the clock, and 0, 1, 2, you let go. That's how it gets its time sync. This device will run about a day and a half on my little battery that I had in my pocket, and its time is about accurate for a day or two, to about 2 days. After about 3 or 4 days, the time wanders a little bit and it starts getting out of trouble on that piece. So this device, you have to play with it. They have their own set of DXplorer tools, which are really cool. This one's right now $120, but it's unobtainium. They're out of stock, can't get them. They have a newer version that is also unobtainium, also $120. This one will do 630 meters up to 6 meters out of the box, where you can do all of those bands with a little pocket-sized device. The same tool sets there. That's the one that we'll see where my antenna smoked Peters, by golly. This is a test from a guy in England. The red is a guy, the red's a guy G8 UDI, and the blue is G3 CWI. That's a measure of how this is over time, and you can see the distance. They can do the average distance. They take the longest 10 spots, and they average those to see what that longest antenna propagation is. And we were talking about, does propagation matter? These antennas were identical, didn't move. And you can see that for 3 days, propagation stayed really well. Then the next couple of days, it went wacky and it came back to propagation normal at the end of that piece. So that's, if you keep running those kind of things on a normal basis, you really get a good handle on how your system's running. This is the one that we ran a test back in, I don't remember when that was, 17, I think, 2017, 2018. Peter and I ran simultaneously. We were both running the same system, had our systems up simultaneously, and we had this graph set to show identical spots. So this is 574 times when Peter and I were both transmitting to the same person at the same time. So propagation out of this, because it's exact same time. You see 574 spots. At the very bottom in small letters, it says 1.4 dB plus. And the plus means my antenna was 1.24 dB better than his antenna. I mean, come on, 1.24, that's a lot, isn't it, Peter? Yeah, no, it's not very much at all. So in theory, our antennas were pretty much identical. What this chart shows on the very left side, there was a -16, which means on one connection, Peter's antenna was 16 dB better than mine. Don't know why. Don't have a clue. We can go check the details and find out. Don't know why. And on the right, you'll see a +12, which means I had one time when my antenna was 12 dB better than his antenna. Now, if you're looking to compare antennas, that's a really good way to go say, okay, let's go look at that one and say, oh, that guy's in Nova Scotia, or oh, that guy turned his power up because he knew Peter was coming. I don't know, whatever story you want to make out of it. But the bell chart that you show here shows a peak right at the 1.24 dB, which is the mathematical mean of that piece. And that shows you that on most of the signals, the zero is the lowest, zero is the second highest, which means on 60, probably 63 transmissions, we were identical to the dB in transmissions across those guys. So this is how you could change. You can check two antennas. You can do an A and B and have two systems running simultaneously. Now, forget about propagation. It's out of the way because we're doing it simultaneously. Now you can say my by golly antenna is 1.24 dB against. Now, of course, I think that's a huge number, and I'm bragging all over the place. 1.2 dB is nothing. You know, that's a leaf that blows in front of an antenna on a daily basis. So, in truth, you remember what we were doing for antennas? I know mine was a 20-meter dipole. Was yours probably? Yours was off-center fed. So there was off-center fed versus a 20-meter dipole. So for those of you that hate dipoles or hate off-center fed dipoles, ours tested out identical. Now, you could have done that in a lot of ways, but we used the 574 bits from across the world and let them do it. This is something that I actually found just for this, in looking for this presentation. It's something called a ZACTech transmitter, and this looks really cool. Where's Dwayne? You're not ordering one already, are you? Not yet. This one looks really cool because it's another little tiny box, but it has a GPS receiver in it, so it automatically figures out the location, and it automatically takes care of the timing. So you don't have to push the little button like I did on mine. It takes care of the timing and does that all stuff work. They have 4 models. One that's model, as they call it, low, and that's for what was it, 2200 meters and 630 meters. So that's in the 100 kilohertz range. Really, where's Ken Robertson from Shawnee? He needs to be here. So that one does the 2200 and 630 range, really low. Mid goes 160 to 20. Mid plus is 16 to 6. And then they've got one that's 80 to 20. They're just different filters that come out of that same device. It's if you're a hardware guy, there's a 5351 chip that generates RF frequencies, and that's what they use for this thing. It's just how they filter the output. Dino, yes, sir. Oh, he has one. Of course, Dino has one. Tell us about it, sir.
Well, you talk about those filters. Each one will do all the things, but they're just talking about the filters that are built in. Put an external filter on, you can have one of the
That is correct. It is the same internals. It's just the RF filters that come out of the thing. Is it worked? How long have you had it? Dino's had one for, how long have you had it? Oh, he's had one for a year. Well, but why aren't you up here? But this looks really cool. I'm glad to hear that you've had some good output from it, because it does the timing all together. It's basically a second generation, takes care of the timing, which is a pain in the tuchus. It wasn't bad to start it, but after 2 or 3 days, it ran out of time.
It's tough to get the low end. I only have the low end for about a couple of months, but I haven't been able to put it on a long enough antenna to try it out.
You got to have a good antenna, and there's not as many people on the low stuff. How do you tune your antenna? This is not an idea to tune the antenna. You would tune the antenna based on your SWR, your VNAs and your SWR pieces. This shows you the results of your tuning. Well, you'd do that on another radio. Yeah, for a mag loop, you'd plug that to tune that. You'd plug it into a different radio that had a receiver, and you'd get that antenna tuned up and then plug it into the this device. Or in your case, with your G90, you could use the G90 as the transmitter and use that and take off running with it. But yeah, these are kind of cool for specialty cases, and they work out real well. Like I said, this will be available on the video. So this list of URLs will be there. Whisper.net is the one that gets you all the maps from it. SourceForge is where you download the WSJT software. WebSDR is where I connected to a guy's receiver in California and forgot to change my grid. Gridtracker.org is where you get the grid tracker software with a big map kind of thing. That's kind of cool. QRP Labs is the light RPRS. That's what went around the room. Soda Beams is the classic. That's the one that I've got, and I love the heck out of it, but it's unobtainium now. It's somewhere hidden in the shop. And those two, the Soda Beams, are the Whisper devices. And then the Zactec is the one that Dean's gotten. And that looks like a cool little option if you're going to do more of this kind of stuff. So those URLs will all be in that presentation online if you want to do it. So chase it out. Which brings us to the magic slide of questions. What do you got? Any online questions coming through? Patrick, good. It's a lot of fun, and you learn a ton about what you're doing. So I will say that. Well, there's a Whisper coming right in there. No, you learn a lot, and you can do a lot of stuff. If you want to do more, come see us at Elmer Night, and we'll help you out. Brent's got a question. You can use your existing radio and adapt it for Whisper. Literally, if you've got a sideband radio that's up and running now, you go grab that Whisper software on your phone, hit the button and put it in front of your microphone, and you're off and running. So cheapest thing in amateur radio. Yeah. Yeah. That full duplex full duplex SDR. Yeah, yes, he's got a full duplex SDR, and it'll work. That will work just fine for that. And Peter's statement is put a filter in front of it so you don't put out garbage. But
I'm half joking. If you want to simplify everything, what I've been doing is remember each transmission is exactly the thing it's sending. Call sign, power, bit square. So what I've been doing is that if you put that in the WSPR, you can export it as an audio file. And you just save the audio file on your phone. You don't need an app.
oh,
All you need is
oh wait, who's making this hard?
yeah.
Wait a minute. So Peter is. Peter is explaining what we call in the IT business a man-in-the-middle replication attack. Yeah. And what he said is that you could use this software and record the audio and then just simply play the audio back with your iPod. Remember those? And that would actually key it. Yes, Peter, I bow to your simplification that if I set up my recording studio and I make that recording, you're the man. But yeah, you could put it on a phone or a watch. And Well, you just put the thing off the watch so the watch could do the audio to. You could play that recording. So, hey, wait, I want to do my whisper. I have a recording. It should be. He's make it hard. He's make it easier by making it harder, which is fine. This is amateur radio. We do things we like to do. And if we want, if we all think Peter's stupid idea is a way to do it, that's actually, as long as it's cheap, that's right. If you've got an old iPod laying around and you don't know what to do with the iPod, that's a brilliant man in the middle replication attack. And Black Hat will be calling you later.
Any other questions for
Anything
Mark?
else? 5-minute break. Thanks, guys. You've been great.
Thanks, Mark, for wonderful program today.
Thank you. Clap, 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 clap.
Go ahead and take a quick break and then we'll start the business meeting.
Do it.
Thank you.
Here's your antenna deal and everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay, let's go ahead and start the business meeting. We'll go ahead and start. We'll go ahead and do that. Everybody will come back to their chairs. We'll go ahead and start the business meeting. Okay, let's go ahead, start the meeting on it there. I'm gonna pitch it to Larry Goodwin to go ahead and give us the financial report, if you would.
Okay, so profit and loss, bottom line is we're down $219 this month. A lot of that was field day expenses and stuff, and most of y'all paid your membership dues, and they still trickle in 1 or 2 a month. So we're doing good. Important numbers is we've got $3,568 in the bank account, 22,000 in the savings account. We did make some interest on it, and the petty cash box here has $137.59 as the end of the month. Membership roster, remember, if you look at that, that's what is listed as paid memberships at the end of the month. So if you paid your membership since then, it won't be on there. So anybody have any questions?
What is the Red Cross Fund now? Why?
The Red Cross Fund is money set aside to spend on the Red Cross. It is in the, money just set aside. It would take a vote of the meeting to reassign that to another thing. So it's not hurting anything. It's just a number that if we had a cause come up that's allotted to Red Cross.
Didn't we buy the cabinet with that money?
We aren't in a pinch for that money to reassign it somewhere else. So it's just a number.
Did we put it aside when we were at meeting at the Red Cross or when we had that?
Correct. Correct. It was dedicated to use there. It was given to use there. And, it would take a vote, or it really need to move it to somewhere else. And there, we don't have that need. It's just a number sitting there.
Okay, thank you, Larry. No, I mean, yes.
I'd like to make a motion, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we move the Red Cross funds into the emergency communication fund.
No. Opposed.
If someone donated money and they donated it to the Red Cross, if they paid the Red Cross. So, okay, if they didn't do that,
The club simply put the funds in there to do that. I think we need to take this to an executive meeting on that and let the executive meeting discuss that before we make any motions on.
I mean, we table it,
Well-
I mean, we table the motion to defer to executive committee.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move it. We have a motion to table it. The motion to move it, is there a second on that?
You didn't get a second on first. You had enough.
Okay, so, okay.
Right.
So, okay, we don't have a motion on that. We do have a motion to table it. Does anybody want to? We'll table it for now. Like I said, we'll take it to executive meeting and let the executive board discuss if it needs to be moved or not. Like I said, we've got more than enough funds in the account not to really worry about that funds at this time. So we'll go forward with that and we'll present it at the next club meeting from the executive board, what they decided on that. Okay. We'll go on ahead and move on to the tech with Ed Hatch.
Over the last couple of weeks, if you've been listening to repeaters, you'll notice somebody running APRS has probably got their radio set up wrong. We're dumping APRS packets. It sounds like a 20-minute beacon, maybe over onto the 70-centimeter machine. So if you're running APRS, you know somebody else who is running APRS, please check your setups. Either you've got like a Yaesu handheld that only dumps data over the B channel, and you've got the B channel on the repeater. So kind of keep an eye on that. It's been going on pretty steadily for about 2 weeks now. So check your APRS rigs. Dog bark, still the dog bark. If y'all want to get out and try to find the dog bark, we've got location, like I said, down to where it's probably west of I-35. It's north side of Moore, south side of Oklahoma City. If you're in the area and you've got a directional, we need to find that. We're going to post up some sounds so you can hear it if you recognize your dog. Most of us kind of recognize what our dog sounds like because we hear them enough. But the dog is still there. Some days it's more audible than others. If I look at patterns, it is most likely somebody who works at night. You hear those usually in the afternoon to early evening. So if that sounds like somebody you know, you might have them just check. It sounds like we originally thought it was a troll. If you haven't heard of the story, it's not a troll. It's somebody who probably has Vox set up on a radio and doesn't understand that their dog is actually triggering it. It is set up on the repeater output, so it's not coming across the repeater. So if you have any ideas that sounds familiar, check them. Most likely it's somebody who doesn't come to meetings because otherwise you'd hear about it every week. But it's somebody who doesn't realize that their dog is setting off their Vox. But we keep trying to find, it's just that you got to have your antenna on the ready.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the most likely. It's why it's gonna HP set on box. It's just there, they don't use it that much, not thinking about it. The dog transmitting.
Okay, thank you, Ed, for the report. Now we're going to go to the nets. I'd like to start with Phil. If he would do the ARES net, the Aries net, and if he would cover for Denny on the Mac net and the Gossip net.
Okay, Aries Net happens Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. local time. Ordinarily on the SCARS 060 repeater frequency, we get 25 to 30 check-ins on that. It happens 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. The net control operators are good, doing a wonderful job of running that thing. We've had really good results with it. Any questions on the Aries net? Right after the Aries net at 8:30 or after the Aries net, they have what we call the Gossip net on the OCO repeater. Nominal Tuesday evening, 8:30. It's totally a social rag chew net for you to get on and talk about anything you want to talk about. So I hope you can join them on the Gossip net. That's it.
Okay, Phil, we appreciate that information on those nets. Now I'm going to have Lee Greenleaf do the DMR net for us.
Thank you, sir. Every Monday night, 8:15 p.m. on DMR Talk Group 3140. we have the statewide DMR net. Try to always have some type of educational packet every week. I alternate it back and forth with Mark and 5HZR. So if you have DMR capability, 8:15 Monday evenings, talk group 3140, which is Oklahoma statewide. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lee, for that information on the DMR net. Mr. Bill Baker, talk about 10 meter. And if you would, just kind of mentions, I don't think Harold's not here and Jim's not here. Talk about 6 meter if you would.
Come and join us on Wednesday night, 8 PM, 28.445 upper sideband for our 10-meter net. On Monday night, Jim, who lives in Newcastle or Blanchard, one or the other, KG5BIM hosts a 6-meter net on 50.200. He's had some issues with his antennas. The last 2 weeks, though, he's been sounding good. If he has trouble, well, Harold usually fills in for him. So 6-meter net, 8 PM Monday, 10-meter net, 8 PM Wednesday.
Okay, thank you for that information, Bill. Now we go to Mr. Peter Laws. And if you would, please, sir, talk about the Siren Net, the VE report, and the Amazon Smile.
I'm woefully unprepared. I thought I had updated the
Talking
page.
to Mr. Peter.
Hello, 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 come in, hello, hello. Can you hear me? You hear me? Hello?
Hang on,
Anybody hear me?
we're gonna get him up here in just a second.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Testing,
Go
1,
ahead,
2,
sir.
3, 4, 5, 6. Hello, hello. Okay, woefully unprepared. I thought I had my list of new hams prepared, and I don't. It will be if I could talk and edit at the same time. I cannot do that. SirenNet, let's talk about that first. We have a SirenNet every Saturday at about noon local time. We report on sirens in primarily Moore and Norman, but also Noble and Newcastle, and we report any non-sounding sirens off to the emergency managers. I do want to, let me see if I have this ready to go here. I'm going to share my screen. So if you could, let's see here. How do I do that? I go over here. I go over here. I do, damn, which one is it? Too many screens, man. There it is. You all see that okay? You see
Yes.
KC5VOY, Robert? Robert's moved out of Moore. Robert has been a very, look at all these reports going back to almost exactly 3 years ago, August of 19, 356 siren reports. He does 3 and more, so he hasn't been doing it for 356 weeks, but you get what I'm saying. He's moved out of town. So I wanted to publicly thank him for his service to the club and to the city of Moore. And also to let you guys know, if you live in Moore and you live near any of these sirens, you can see the addresses here, near the MSTAT station over on Eastern, one on Southeast 19th, one near the Apple Creek School. We need some fills on that. So thank you, Robert. And if you're interested in, I have lost my place here. Where did my screen go? Dang. Stop share. There we go. If you're interested in picking up any of those sirens and more, please send a note to siren@w5nor.org and we'll get you fixed up with that. Beyond today, at noon, all cities, as far as we know, are testing as normal. What was the other thing you wanted me to talk about, Mark?
VE testing.
VE
past
testing.
time?
We do that. Yes, every month we do that in the very room in which you are standing. Ordinarily, I would display a list of the people who passed their test last time. Unfortunately, that's the list of people that passed their test at Ham Holiday. But on August 4th, which is listed as being in the future on that screen there, we actually tested, or I had it open here. Where is it? Where's the candidate list? Yes, We had 4 new hams, including one that went all the way to extra, and 2 other fellows that upgraded their license, one to general, one to extra. Their call signs and names would be on that screen again if I was on the ball. Now, the guy that went straight to extra used to be a novice many years ago and let it expire. And then he got his novice again and he let it expire. And then he got his novice again and worked his way all the way up to advanced class and let it expire. So he had a credit for element 3. He passed the technician test, used the element 3 credit to get to general, and then passed the extra test and became an amateur extra. So he's back in the fold. We did.
He's here smiling.
Oh, good. We did impress upon him how important it was not to let it expire. So the fee thing is still ongoing. It hasn't changed. Still $35. Yeah, it seems like you can pay it on the Friday morning after you get your file number, and it will post around midnight on Friday night. So actually early Saturday morning for us. I don't know if it's going to always be like that. I'm not certain of that. So, but it's working. It's still $35. It's still an extra step. It does slow it down usually by a day or sometimes more, but it is working. Again, no fee for an upgrade, no fee for a change of address, but there is a fee for a new license and there is a fee for a renewal of a license. And then there was something else you wanted me to blabble about.
Amazon Smile.
Amazon Smile. If you buy stuff from Amazon, and you probably buy stuff from Amazon, if you, instead of going to Amazon.com, you go to smile.amazon.com, it's the same stuff, but the first time you go to that, it's going to say, hey, which charity would you like us to send a bit of money to? And you find the South Canadian Amateur Radio Society, Inc., which is a 501c3 organization, and you set us up. And then every time you buy something, 0.5% of whatever you buy ends up in the SCAR's treasury, and it's been good. We've in the how long have we been doing it? Over 10 years now. We're over $2,000 of free money from Amazon. Doesn't cost you anything. Comes out of their profit. Of course, they take a tax deduction for that. But it's a good way to support the club. It's easy. It's not, $50 every time you buy something. It's a couple bucks, but still. Anybody interested in buying a car, please do it that way, because then we'd get a whole lot of money. That's it. That's all I got, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for all that information. Yeah, the Amazon Smile is a good way for the club to make a little extra money without having to work for it, basically. I mean, everybody buys stuff on Amazon one time or another. So that's a good way to support the club. I'm kind of stalling a minute because I'm going to give it over to Mr. Mark Klein, our Oklahoma section manager. He's got quite a few things to cover for you this morning.
Unfortunately, Mark said make a list, so it could be a while. Get comfortable. Today, we've got a bunch of good stuff. Dwayne is here with a kit for an off-center fed dipole. It's a 49-to-1 balance setup. It's a end-fed. What did I say? Off-center fed? Oh, sorry. End-fed kit that basically it's the $30 kit that you add wire to it, cut the wire for whatever length you want. If you want a 20-meter one, you cut it for 20 meters. You cut it for a random one, you can do a random one. He's got those available. That's the same as the one that the league has, or similar to the ones that the league has for the $70 or $70 that are just going like hotcakes there. We used a couple of them at POTA event out here at the lake, and it's kind of cool. He's also got a cute little Morse code doodad that he's got built, and I think you're selling those for $200. So what it was, 180 for me and 20 for you. Yeah, that's what it is. So he's got both of those that are available, which is kind of cool. In my dreams is right with $180. The other cool thing is that I've gotten permission from the Oklahoma Arden Pioneers, I guess is what we should call ourselves. Myself, Dave Downing, that's his name, right, Dave? Yeah, our good friend. Yeah, Dave. WG5D. WD5G. Yeah, WG5D, WD5G. I'll get it right. Dave and I are part of the Oklahoma Pioneer team run by our visionary Dwayne Angles, AA5KD. And we have been working on Arden he's been working on it for 6 years. I think I've been working on it for 3 with him. This week, we got a link that is up and running from the Auto Patch Tower, which is at Highway 62 and 9 out there by the big, tall AT&T tower. A link from there to my office, which is up here at the Tecumseh Hospital. We've got a link that goes from my office at the Tecumseh Hospital to Sandridge Building, or whatever we're calling it nowadays, since Sandridge doesn't own it anymore. And up there, we have 3 transmitters, one that points south to me in Norman, one that points east to Dwayne in, I don't know what you are, Oklahoma City? South Oklahoma City. It's no man's land. South Oklahoma City up there. And we've got another one that points north to the Oklahoma County EOC office. So with that rig set up, we've got about 16 miles of air stuff that's up and running and been running solid. All 3 have been running solid since Friday? When did I finish that? Yesterday sometime. And the others have been up running for about 2 or 3 weeks. So we've got a pretty good Arden path that's built. Our goal is to then build that out so that we can have folks jump into that data network and be a part of that, which is kind of fun and cool to see after 6 years of effort. So more to follow. But we've got 15 devices on those networks, either VPN or radioed in. We got 51 different routes that are available through that setup, web servers and phone servers and all that kind of stuff. It will link Norman EOC, Moore EOC, Oklahoma County EOC, and the DMR here in town is VPN'd into that system. So the DMR traffic can come into that as well. So we finally had some good luck on getting everything together. We've gotten lots smarter on microwave over the last 2 or 3 months, and we're up and running. So it's kind of fun being up 400 feet in the sky at Sandridge, looking around saying, whoa, this is neat. And then get down and leave. So that is up and operational, which is very cool. You'll see something about that. Hopefully I'll get that into QST in the next 3 or 4 months whenever they get to press. So that'd be kind of cool. Route 66 event is coming up in September. It's where you can either work people that are on Route 66, or you can be one of the operators that work it. Norman has been deemed to be in the Route 66 neighborhood. So if you want to sit at your house, the Auto Patch Oklahoma City Auto Patch website will have a sign up piece where you can sign up for slots and you can actually work from your house, or like Dwayne and Dave will be doing, they'll be working at Pops doing their digital stuff from a tent out there next to Pops. And hopefully they won't have the sewer problem. Last year they had the sewers back up in the middle of that, and it was, it was right. It's like, you want a hamburger? No, I really don't want. No, I don't need one. But they worked at Pops the last couple of years. It's a great event. If you want to get certificates, if you work all of the little places, you get QSL cards from them. If you just search Route 66 on the air, you'll find it all over the place. We are Whiskey 6 Kilo out of Oklahoma City. Whiskey 6 Juliet is in Elk City. They've taken it back up again. So they're doing Elk City area, and Whiskey 6 Lima is going to be Tulsa. So there's a whole bunch of stations that run across there. It's kind of fun. Ham Holiday, thank you all for showing up. If you showed up, if you didn't show up, well, we'll see you next year. Ham Holiday was in Oklahoma City, OCCC. Great success. Lots of people there, 600 plus people. Enjoyed the piece. Loved to have you there. We had a really cool raffle that we did, special one for $20 a ticket to get a 705 radio. And Steve Duskin out of Blanchard won that radio. And $20 got him, well, actually he put in more than $20, but $20 ticket got him a radio. And we will be rerunning that same raffle for Hammerama, which is going to be the Ardmore Hamfest. Central Oklahoma Repeater or Central Oklahoma Radio Amateurs, Cora, has been asked to take over the Hammerama Hammerama Festival. So we'll be running that one this fall, and we'll do the same raffle. So if you want to get your chance at that 705 package that that Uncle Ed here and Uncle Dwayne had put together. They had an antenna tuners, $2,200 package that for $20 a chance you can get one. That's kind of cool. You don't have to be there to win, which is the cool part. So Hammerama's coming up in October 2021. Be there, be square. All ham dinner is another thing that Cora runs out of that bunch. September will be the third Thursday in September. We will be meeting at Panda. No, not Panda. No, not Hibachi. It's the one in
Dell City.
Golden Palace. Thank you. Glad you came. Golden Palace. I always get it wrong.
Dell City.
Dell City area. It's just north of 240 in that area. It's pretty good food. 15th and Air Depot. 15th and Air Depot if you're a Midwest City person. And Levon is an ex-Midwest City person. So she hasn't forgotten it. That's good. That's good for you. So thank you very much for that. But that's going to be up there on the third Thursday of September. Always fun. We have probably 50 or so folks that show up from all over the central Oklahoma area and tell stories about each other. So I think that gets one more. Oh, Ponca City is going to happen. Ponca City is going to be September 17th. It's a trunker, tailgate trunker festival up there at Ponca City area. So if you're wanting to go north and trade some gear, you can go up there on the 17th. When is that? Oh, what was it?
Right
Oh,
after the 16th.
Oh, that was like a long time ago. I forgot about that. We Scars did more National Night Out August 2nd. And the numbers were supposed to be 4,000 to 5,000 people there, at least 2 helicopters, a whole bunch of trucks and cars, and amateur radio folks were there. Lots of good food, lots of good folks. We hadn't seen a lot of through a pandemic. We hadn't seen a lot of these people that came out to see us at the event. We had all kinds of radios set up, WinLink, we had HF, we had CW, we had Arden. We had all kinds of stuff set up. So it was kind of fun to do. And we'll hopefully have 2 more coming up. The Norman's is October 3rd. Thank you. No, Norman's will be October 3rd. And there's a Westheimer, I think it's the end of October, the Westheimer open house, somewhere in that range. Davey? Go ahead, Davey. Did the SWAT team get a crazy guy off the top of the command center? I was the crazy guy on top of the command center. So technically, yes, they got him off. So yeah, I was up checking some Arden paths. So it was kind of fun. But that was a good deal. Thank you all for coming and did that. Last thing is next week is Oklahoma Parks on the Air. Okay, POTA. So if you're a POTA person, get your radios up, go out and find a park, go in it. If you're not a traveling POTA person, sit on your couch and work as a hunter and see if you can grab some POTA stations across the country. So country for if you're sitting on the couch, you can work anybody in the country. So you probably will. Propagation will probably keep you out of the state. But if you're a hunter, sit on the couch and work the Oklahoma Parks on the Air. John Jeitz did a really good presentation 2 meetings ago. All of this stuff is at ok.arrl.org/okpota. And that should be fun. Wait, one. I have not heard any tailgates. That's usually a pretty well kept secret. I don't have any idea. They pop that up at the last minute and I don't know when it is. They do them randomly and usually it's on a second Saturday, which is when we're here. 61 Chevy trunk? No, that's the one in Ponca City would be the 61 Chevy trunk. That'd be a good way. Take your 61 Chevy out there and start selling stuff. That'd be good. That's it. Thank you. If you want to see the antennas, see Dwayne afterwards. If you want to see some of the Arden stuff, I have a connection to it that we can show you the different stuff that's running after the meeting.
Hey, Mark, reload that new ham page. I fixed it.
Oh, so I hit the wrong page is what you're telling me.
Yeah. That's it. Totally your mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, so oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong page. Peter, go ahead.
No, that's it. I just wanted to make sure everybody saw the call signs and the names.
Thank you, Peter.
Tailgate on the 27th.
Any,
Tailgate on 27th is what you said, Sam?
Yeah, up there, like the parking lot, kind of across from where their club headquarters is, there in Edmond.
That's across from the fire station?
Yeah, if you go to the groups.io, it gives you an address. It's 30 East Campbell, actually. If you know where that is, or can Google that.
Okay, Google 30 East Campbell.
okay, any other new business for the club today? Any other? Galen?
So there will be
Let me bring that mic over to you so everybody online can hear this as well.
On the public safety side of the world, there is going to be a regional communications exercise hosted at the Downstream Resort up in Quapaw on September the 14th and 15th. It's mostly public safety. There will be, the last time we did this, there was like upwards of 60 mobile command vehicles at this event, 200 or 300 communications personnel doing a series of task-based exercise stuff. I don't know how much of a ham radio or Oxcom component there's going to be on that yet. There will be at least a little bit, and I'm working with the organizers to try and get some more. The upshot of this is if you guys are during the day that listen, I may try and get some of you to see if we can't do some HF, at least out of my truck to back down to here and talking to home base and also Mr. Ed and some other folks. We definitely will have a WinLink component to it, assuming that the tasks I submitted get approved. So if you hear something about a Central States communications exercise, that's what it is. September 14 and 15.
Okay, thank you, Galen, for that information. David?
I just gonna get an update on Tina and Denny's travel. They traveling real nice, having fun. And last night they went back to the Grand Canyon Hotel. They spent 2 nights there. And they took the train to the Grand Canyon to the South Rim and stayed out there for several hours and then rode the train back to Williams. So where their excursion takes them next, who knows? But they're doing the same, having a blast.
Well, it's good to hear that Denny's doing okay and enjoying his trip. Okay, any other new business? Yes.
Grants to go out and teach, people who work in public works, how to do certain things like deal with mental health and disasters and trauma and all that kind of stuff. And we're in the process, working with Mark Klein, in fact, on making a specific training for ham radio operators, because we all work in public works also, doing parades and other events in the marathon and all that kind of stuff. So what this training is going to focus on is what do you do if something happened right in front of you? Some of the parades, we've had people go into seizures, or we had a horse rear up and lose its rider, bonked his head on the cement. What would you do if something happened in the middle of the marathon or something like that? So this is going to be ham specific training. It's October 29th. It's a Saturday. OU is playing on Thursday that week, and OSU is playing in Kansas that week. So there's no football games right here. It's called Initial Trauma Scene Responder. And again, it's ham specific. So we're going to talk about communications and a little bit of first aid, a little bit of stop the bleed, a little bit of psychological first aid, a little bit of stuff, a little bit of everything. And that's from 9 a.m. to noon. And we are working on getting a CPR provider for the afternoon. We were told that the American Heart Association now charges $22 for certification. So we're trying to find a way to do that for free without, having to charge y'all any money. Because we want this training to be free for anybody who wants it. So just letting y'all know, mark your calendars.
Where would this be held?
I asked for a room at the Oklahoma City County Health Department on Northeast 63rd. We're just waiting for that approval to go through. They say it usually takes about 2 weeks. So, but if it's not gonna be there, we'll find another place for it. It might be here, so. Hopefully the room at the Oklahoma City County Health Department will come through though.
All right, thank you for that information. Any other new business for the club today?
Don't know if it's necessarily new, but I still have baseball tickets available. Can't get this weekend. I can't get it done that quick, but they'll be back in a couple weeks. If anybody wants any baseball tickets, it was in the newsletter, but email me at ki5sam@arrl.net and let me know when you want to go and where you prefer to sit, third base, first base, whatever. These are field box seats right down by the close to the field as you can get.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate that information. Anybody else with new information? Any new business? Okay, next meeting will be Saturday, September the 10th. Plan for that. And if you like, if you have time, come out on Tuesday nights for the Elmer night. We have a lot of fun with that. If you need radios worked on or updated or antennas, so forth, come see us on Tuesday night. That starts at 6:30. Other than that, meeting is adjourned.
So are we done?
I think that's what adjourn means.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to adjourn to the coffee and get more.
See you later.
Bye.